Okay, well, I'm showing 5:01 p.m., so let's proceed, and Donald may clock in here once he gets onto a computer. So with that, the first item of business is roll call. So the commissioners would say if they're present. I'll start. David Walter, present.
Eric Sandweiss.
Nicholas Gaddis.
Let's see, do we have staff present? Please identify yourself.
Jeff Underwood, Controller Treasurer.
Christina Finley, Hand Department.
Larry Allen, Legal.
Okay, then. First item of business is reading of the minutes of June 1st. That was sent out separately as a Word document. I looked at it just recently. If anyone has any questions or corrections. Otherwise, I need a motion to accept the minutes.
I move approval of the minutes for June 1st.
And please state your name when you.
Second.
Eric Sandweiss with the motion.
Nicholas Kappas with the second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say yes with your name. Yes, David Walter.
Yes, Eric Sandweiss.
Yes, Nicholas Kappas.
Okay, does anybody disagree with this? If so, say no with your name. Finding no one to complain, we will move on to the next thing, which is examination of claims for June 12th. $561,503.35. I need a motion to accept the claims. Please state your name if you wish to make that motion.
I'm Don Griffin. I accept that motion.
And now Don's here. David Walter will second that motion. All in favor, say aye with your name. David Walter says yes.
Eric Sandweiss, aye.
Nicholas Kappas, yes.
Don Griffin, aye.
And do we have a vote from Nicholas?
Yes, Nicholas Kappas, yes. I was over Don.
Okay, motion passes. With that, I'll turn the meeting over to the chair, Don Griffith. Don, we're on examination of payroll registers.
Right, thank you so much. All right, examination of payroll registers. Is there a motion to approve the payroll registers for June the 5th, 2020?
David Walter makes a motion to accept the payroll registers.
Okay. And Eric, I sound like Eric had a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Starting with your name, I guess. I'm Don Griffin, I approve.
David Walter, I approve.
Sandweiss, aye.
Kappas, yes.
Okay. No, all is in favor, no opposed, the motion carries. That was that payroll or claims? I'm sorry.
We already did claims. We've done the payroll. Now we're ready for reports of officers.
Okay, thank you, thank you. All right, so report of officers and committees. Is there a director's report? Do we have a director today?
Doris is absent today. I think that Eric is here in her place. Eric Sater is here in her place if he has a report.
No report. I don't know if you can hear me. My microphone wasn't working a second ago.
No, we're good. Is there a treasurer? Is there a legal report?
No report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for legal? No. Okay. Is there a treasurer's report?
There is not.
Okay. Is there a CTP update report?
There is not.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your reports. Let's go on to new business. The next item of business is resolution 20-31, approval of the third guaranteed maximum price for the 4th Street garage. Who would like to speak in regards to this?
I can talk and Larry can back me up here.
All right.
This is the restart of the 4th Street garage. This is the early package that is mainly the drilled piers and some additional work related to that. This will allow us to start work in late July, early August on that site. So it's really just getting it back up and going again. So this, again, if you remember the GMP's guaranteed maximum price, Wilhelm is contracted with that work, and they have bid out the work, and then they have subs that will do the work that they'll pay based off of us. The total of this is a maximum of $1,557,166, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay.
May I?
Oh. What do you have, Eric?
Jeff, just a question. It looks like there is one page in the attachments that details cost savings from the original estimate as a result of the decreased footprint.
Yes.
Compared to the original.
Mhm.
And it's quite a small amount in relative terms. I was just wondering whether there's foreseeable future savings coming from this smaller footprint, or whether it's really going to we're going to make up for it in other respects.
Well, actually, the footprint, while the footprint is smaller, the building is taller. So we're going to end up with a garage that's basically the same size, just taller. So the piers, minor savings because the piers have to be able to have that additional height on the extra floor. So we did get a very good bid on the drilled piers themselves. So that came in way under budget, but obviously we've had costs that we've incurred from the demolition and those folks being on site as well. So we still appear to be within budget. Obviously the next bid package is going to be the big key to that. But overall, the overall budget, we think we're going to still fit within that, even with the delay and added costs. So we were very happy to see a really good bid on the drilled piers.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Don, I have a question.
Sure.
Is this the same company that that we took the bid from? Is this the same company that's doing the Switchyard Park?
No, it's not. This is Wilhelm Construction. Switchyard Park is Weddell Construction.
Thank you. That's why I was.
Yeah, they're very close. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Have we had a prior relationship with Wilhelm Construction?
Yeah, we've done projects with them in the past, and this went through, we selected GMP partners for both Trades District and for the 4th Street Garage. And there was a whole process that we went through that solicited proposals. There were interviews. There was a large committee that helped us select Garmon for Trades District and Wilhelm for the 4th Street Garage. Both of them are very reputable companies. Both of them have been around for a long time. Both of them based here in Indiana. So we're confident that they can get this done.
So
Question for me. This is Eric Sandweiss for Jeff. So as it currently stands, we are not seeing increased costs based on the delays caused by the COVID shutdowns, but presumably we could, when we get to the future contracts, see different labor costs, different materials costs that one could trace to the necessary delays. Is that your understanding as well?
Yeah, so we were actually put on notice by Garmon. I don't believe, Larry, and you can remind me, I don't think Wilhelm has given us a formal notice, but there's an expectation there's possible delays, mainly because some of these plants where they've had several cases and have had to shut down, or they've only got one of the lines running instead of two, so they're at diminished capacity. But so far, we've not seen any of that come through in reality. And I think part of the fact that construction was considered essential business and was allowed to continue to go ahead and work, that we may not see any impact.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Can we, anyone want to do a motion for this?
This is David Walter. I'd like to make a motion. We accept this.
I'm done. Oh, no. Can we have a second?
Sure, this is Eric Sandweiss, I second. Motion 20-31.
Okay. All those in favor? I'm Don Griffin, I say yes.
David Walter says yes.
Eric Sandweiss, aye.
Mr. Kappas, how do you vote? You're on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute. Nicholas Kappas says yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Yes. All right, the next item of business is Resolution 20-32, approval of the change order for the construction of Winslow / Henderson improvements. Who's going to talk in regards to this motion?
Good evening, Matt Smethers with Planning and Transportation. Change order 2 for the Winslow Henderson Path Project includes various additions to the contract, including temporary striping, rock excavation, and installation of delineators. This change order would result in an increase to the contract of $17,097.50. I'd be happy to answer any specific questions you had on these items.
Dave, could you just tell us more about the reason for the changes?
The delineators were added after the project was basically completed. That's where the new ped island was constructed at Walnut Street Pike, and that's a right turn only as you're heading north now. And we still had vehicles trying to make a left turn there. So we added delineators down the center line of Winslow. So now it's much more difficult to try to make a left-hand turn there. The rock excavation was for where we added the new sidewalk on the southeast corner of Henderson and Winslow. We had to put a wall there, and so we had to break some rock out to get that wall in. The pedestrian island I just spoke about, when we first installed it, it was damaged by vehicles about 10 times. So we had those repairs made through the island after construction was basically completed. And now that we put the delineators in, it hasn't been hit to date. Keep our fingers crossed. The project went through winter, which initially we did not think it would. So we had to put some temporary striping down to get us through winter. We did some additional sidewalk work at the Walnut Street Pike intersection. There's a section of sidewalk that was broken. We decided to go ahead and remove that and replace it while we were there. And when we negotiated for a right of way with one of the property owners where the Marathon and the old Pizza Hut building are, he had requested that we run a new curb line along that side of the road because the buses were going off in the grass in his property. And so we put that new curb in that wasn't part of the original project. And then there was some extra signs and barricades needed to block off certain sections of sidewalk. That wasn't originally included on the plans, but once we were there, we noticed that it was necessary, so we added that.
So in other words, there's a variety of small items here that adds up to a large amount.
Right, the delineators was the most expensive item, and that was a little over $4,000. And most of these are in the $1,000 to $2,000 range.
That's a temporary delineator?
No, the delineators are permanent.
All right, the one, okay, I got it. Stops people from making a left turn, right?
Yes, it does.
So what's the general practice for a change order such as this? So I understand the need for the delineator, and just, you know, all these little things happen, but what's the general practice for the accumulation of this? It's a situation where it's is there like a risk assessment that's taken place? How do you go about determining that rock excavation, putting concrete, the new curb, things like that? How do you go about saying, yeah, well, let's put this on?
As the situations arise during construction, you know, the contractor will notify us. City staff will go evaluate the situation and determine if we believe the extra work is necessary or not. We will then get a price from the contractor for the extra work. And typically the city engineer or traffic and transportation engineer would approve these items, especially when they're a larger item. At some point, we will take all these items to the Board of Public Works for their approval. And then this contract was TIF funded, so it also requires approval of this commission.
Nick, I'll also add that both Deputy Mayor Renheisen and myself get the agendas for the public works boards, and they have to go through a vetting process with both Nick and I before they'll go on those agendas. And we always make them subject to approval by the RDC if they're a jointly funded project. The other thing is we typically will, in the program budget for public works, we'll usually have a contingency fund of anywhere from 5 to 20% for these kinds of things that, you know, you do your best to figure out what you're going to need, but things pop up that, you know, you can't see because you're digging down in the dirt or come up during the construction. So the idea is that the budget would have the money in it, but then the change order process is the formal process to bring it to the appropriate boards and have them review and approve it as well.
Hey,
You're saying, Jeff, that... Sorry, Don.
No, you're fine, man. Go for
it. So you're saying that preemptively, when you do a budget, so for this project, you've already accounted for 5 to 10%, and what the 17,000 kind of amounts to roughly, very hastily, is about 3.2% of what the original contract sum was. So are you saying that that's already covered up front when you created the budget for this project?
Yeah, we create an allowance basically that says, you know, here's the engineer's estimate for the project. And that involves construction and design. And then once we have that number, then we'll add a contingency amount to that from a budgeting standpoint so that we know, do we have enough money to fund the project? So that moves forward. And then if there's no changes, then obviously that just frees up that contingency. Otherwise, we'll bring change orders forward account for different things. Sometimes also in contracts, rock will be a per cubic ton. So it'll have a flat rate of like, say, $50 per cubic ton, and we estimate it's. They measure that, and they'll come in after the fact and say, well, we only had 40, or we had 60, because there are conditions that are unknown. So it's a typical part of construction, is that you do your best to design it and try to figure everything out, but you always have an allowance that you can against that for these kinds of things.
Any other questions? Or you have any more, man? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you can go ahead if you have a question.
Okay. Anybody else?
Just a couple quick comments here. It looks like we've already approved one change order around $9,600. And so with this 17,000 and change, we're still well under 10% of the total contract, probably more like 5, which is exceptional given the scope of work and where you've been working. And then I assume from this change order, like some of these items are already done, and with Public Works approving it and then we approving it, the contractor can be paid for this work in full once the change order is completed. And then I see that we're expecting substantial completion or total completion, looks like December of this year. Is that correct?
The project is substantially completed. We had our pre-final inspection or punch walk last week. I think the date that's showing on your documents is like the legal department has a date where all the documentation for the contract is completed by. But yeah, the project in the field is substantially complete. They just have the remaining punch list items to take care of.
So basically this will be the last change order and there shouldn't be any after this.
There is one more item off the top of my head. I cannot remember what it was, but I did not get that item in time to include it on this change order. And then there's another potential item where there's a drainage issue on one corner, and we're considering having this contractor come back in and do some additional work to correct that drainage issue. But we're still waiting for a price from them to decide on whether or not we will use them for that work.
This third change order that you have, is it substantial? The third one? I know you don't know the fourth one yet.
No, I don't remember what the item is, but I don't believe it's more than a few $1,000s at most.
Okay.
Okay, Don, I just have one question more. So has the Board of Public Works already approved this, Jeff?
Yes, it comes to you guys last.
It comes to us last. So I'm just trying to figure out the process, and I appreciate your patience with this. So the work gets done, it's approved by you, it goes to you and Mick, it goes to Public Works, and then it comes to us. But like I said, it's already done. So if we didn't approve this, then a contractor's out for work, and then they would have potentially have to do legal action against the city to get that money.
Well, if they typically, because when we do project review forms with the RDC, we always include a contingency amount, and we say that it authorizes the staff to go ahead and authorize that work, because the way that the meetings fall may not work well and cause delays in the project. But the statute requires that we come back and have you guys review and authorize the funds for those works, even though you've approved it in allowing the staff to go ahead and approve those so that they can move forward. Because like say, a lot of these are small things and they're there, and you've got to make the call. Do we go ahead and have them do it? So they're putting in a sidewalk and they hit rock, and you just say, yeah, you got to go. But you make sure that it's measured. So it's more of transparency to bring them back to the light of day to see So in this case, it gets a lot of light because it's gone through Board of Public Works and you all as well. If you turned it down, then the city would still be obligated to pay it. You just make my life harder because then I'd have to find the funds somewhere else.
Not on purpose.
95% of the stuff that you bring us, the change orders that you bring us, have already been, those decisions are usually already, they've already been done most of the time, right?
Yes.
Whether they're trees being cut, whether they always seem to be done or in the process of being done.
Yeah, you actually save money by going ahead and have the contingency built in and allowing staff to go ahead and authorize up to that amount. Now, if for some reason it went above that amount, we would, before we could do any additional work, we'd have to come and extend that allowance. But that's very rare that we go over it. You know, something substantially bad had to happen that nobody could foresee. But the idea is you're going to pay more in delays if you have to stop a contractor while we go through this whole approval process, which it would take about 4 weeks to do. Then they're claiming delays, and those are pretty pricey. So,
okay,
I appreciate Nick's question. Sometimes it's helpful to have a fresh voice on the commission and to ask important questions that maybe were left unasked. I don't know whether it would be out of the question for future practice for us to include in the whereases of a given motion of this type the fact that it had already received Public Works approval before arriving at our committee.
you can certainly add that. That wouldn't be a problem.
I'd appreciate it.
For the public record, as well as for anybody who's attending a meeting, as well as for our own reminder of the vetting process.
No problem. The reason I'm kind of smiling is I've got my next Public Works email just came into my inbox. So I'm looking at projects and seeing if one of those were the change order that he was talking about. So.
all right. Do we have any other questions in regards to this resolution for Jeff? Are we ready to make a motion?
This is David Walter. I'll make a motion. We accept resolution 20-32.
Eric Sandweiss, I second.
All those in favor, Don Griffin, I agree. Who else is in favor?
David Walter, yes.
Sandweiss, yes.
Kappas, yes.
Okay, motion is approved. All right, let's go on to resolution 20-33, approval of the change order for West 17th Street Reconstruction Project.
Matt Smothers again with Planning and Transportation. Change order 6 for the West 17th Street Reconstruction Project is for the removal of 2 trees. These 2 trees are right on the property line, and they were initially supposed to remain in place. When the grading for this area was completed, the dirt went up a foot or so on each of these trees, and the property owner was concerned that these may die. So we had the city urban forester come look at both trees. She agreed that it would be in best interest to go ahead and remove the trees now. Since most of the work in this area had already been completed, the removal of these 2 trees was a little more, I'm sorry, I'll start over here. Went ahead of myself. This change order was for additional compacted stone excavation and adding geogrid to the roadbed where we had excavated, and there was a soft spot in the roadbed. This change order is for $3,068.50. This is also TIF funded, so it requires your approval. That has been approved already by the Board of Public Works. I again apologize for reading the wrong item there in the beginning. I can answer any questions you may have.
According to the change order, the work is finished as of yesterday, Sunday, June 14th. Is that true?
No, they were not able to finish yet. We're now looking at a completion date in early August. Hopefully they make that one. So we'll have our fingers crossed.
Any questions in regards to resolution 20-33 or comments? If not, can we have a motion?
This is Cindy Canarney, move approval 20-33.
David Walter, I'll second that motion.
Don Griffin, I'm in favor.
Eric Sandweiss, yes.
Nicholas Kappas, yes.
David Walter, yes.
Cindy
Motion.
Canarney, yes.
Motion is approved. All right.
Hey, Don,
yeah.
it's Cindy.
Yes, Cindy.
Just so you know, I've been on the call the whole time. For some reason, I don't think my voice was coming through, but I have been on the call the whole time.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Were you, was there anything that you didn't approve?
No, I've approved everything so far.
Okay, okay. All right. Legal, how do we handle that?
Because anytime you're having an electronic meeting, you have to have the ability to be heard. So we'll just show that Cindy showed up now. You know, she was present for the meeting at this point forward. She can vote from this point forward. We're not going to retroactively count or discount any votes.
Okay, just making sure. Okay. Let's go on to the last item of business, the resolution 20-34, the grant entry to 1730 South Walnut Street and associated parcels. Is this the tree thing he was talking about?
Is this the what? No, it's not the tree thing.
Oh,
So this is the former property that housed Night Moves, where we entered into the purchase agreement with Real America to develop it into affordable housing near Switchyard Park. That was performed in resolution 2027. As part of the due diligence under that purchase agreement, Real America is now ready to enter the property and do some of their due diligence testing on the land and the property. Now, the purchase agreement does say it's being sold as is, but they do have a right to inspect so that they know what they're getting into. This right of entry is pretty standard. This is what we've done historically for purchases of property. So we're granting them a limited right of entry to perform this due diligence for the next 90 days.
okay. All right, straightforward. It's so that they can do inspections. There's already been, we've already had soil samples. Yeah, we've done all that, but yeah, they do need to check it out, so.
Yeah, and anything that we have, we share with them, but they have the option of updating that if they so choose.
Okay.
I have a question. So based on this, what's the next step? So they're able to, we approve this, they have 90 days. They find something. Does that have any impact with anything the RDC has done?
I mean, potentially it could, if there's something that needs to be addressed there that we don't know about, they could raise it as a potential. Just really what it's actually for is to give them a sense of what they'll need when they start the building process in the year. So they're going to spend the next year trying to get the tax credits and everything to build the affordable housing. This gives them a sense of where bedrock is potentially. If there's any soil contaminants left over, you know, there's a parking lot there, there's the Meineke there, so there could be some just, you know, regular oil contamination, which you would kind of expect. So that would give you a sense of what you need to do during the construction process. I don't think we're going to be surprised by anything, but certainly, you know, if something's discovered, maybe they'll want to come back and we'll get notice of that where they'll want to do a more in-depth study, and we'll try to work with them. However, again, just to note, the purchase agreement says the property is being sold as is. So really that's for their edification for the construction process.
I'm just making sure that there's not something, and we're selling it as is, so that's good, because I'm just making sure that we're not having to come back to the table and say, they want more TIF money towards this, or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think beyond what's going on here to where they could come back and say, we want more.
Certainly that's not the agreement as it stands now. So that would have to be something that you all would have to get a lot of information about, and it would be a separate thing if that even remotely happened.
Okay. Just following up. Thank you.
Yeah, we've done phase 1 and phase 2s on that, haven't we? Before
We did
Yeah.
before we purchased it. Yes, that's correct. And by we, I mean you did. The Redevelopment Commission did. I consider myself part of the team. I'm sorry for using the colloquially we. I don't mean to be too familiar with the commission.
Yeah, you're fine. We've done a lot of the due diligence on that, so they should be fine, unless David just built the thing, designed the thing, so where you can't tear it down, which David Walters actually designed the building. So.
Yeah, it was an interesting building. It was third base restaurant and lounge. So, but it was an interesting building. With that, I think we should move right along. I'll make a motion to accept resolution 20-34.
Cindy Canarney, seconds.
All those in favor? I'm Don Griffin. I approve.
Eric Sandweiss, approve.
David Walter, approve.
Cindy Canarney, approve.
Nicholas Kappas, approve.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Any other general discussion or business we need to talk about? Anything?
Well, I believe we had a promise from Jeffrey Underwood about financials this meeting, according to the meeting minutes of last meeting.
Why did I promise that?
Okay.
I apologize. I will get those for you.
Okay, we'll wait.
Well, it won't be tonight.
All right, next time, right? All right. Any other questions, guys, or concerns or comments? Okay.
I will say, I think one of the things that I did say is if we had received our first property tax installment, and we have not received that yet. So I don't have any, I have a concern about how much our TIF revenue is going to be, and that's not been distributed yet. So hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have at least the first distribution. So we'll have some idea what's going on there.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. Meeting is adjourned.